Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start off by giving all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Bahashem, Marakah Kodash, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who well, peace and blessings and citation to the hopeful elect, the Bayat, Dawadah, the house of David. Right? So just going to jump right into it, right? This is Psalms 55, and we'll start at verse number 20. It says, he had put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him, and he had broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Cast thy burden upon Yahweh, and he shall sustain thee, and he shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. But thou, O Yahweh, shall bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in thee. Right? So let's go over here. Right? So it says, now I put in the ancient Romans, right? It says four ways the ancient Romans would dominate, right? So we know we living in the revitalized Roman Empire, right? AKA Nineveh, AKA Sodom and Egypt, right? AKA Mount Seir, AKA Balzria. You see, right? But all stemmed up in this one plot. The Assyrians, all stemmed up in this plump right here, what you call a revitalized Roman Empire, right? So I put the ancient Romans, right, because this is what the AI overview says. It says the ancient Romans would dominate through a combination of military prowess, right? It says a policy of cultural assimilation. It says an emphasis on law and order with effective administration and innovative engineering and infrastructure. It says these factors working in concert allowed Rome to conquer vast territories, integrate and diverse peoples, and maintain control for centuries. See that? Now, what is that? Let's fast forward to that. What is that again? Babylon the Great, aka what? America. Right? Stemmed it out of what? The little horn that came out of Great Britain. Right? Okay? So you got NATO and the EU. Right? The North Atlantic Treaty Organizations. You got the Rome Treaty. Right? Or the Treaty of Rome, Salakia. Right? See? So that little horn, right? That stemmed out of Great Britain. That came out of Great Britain, which is a.k.a. Babylon the Great, a.k.a. America, a.k.a. Nineveh, a.k.a. You see? It says a military project. Now this is the revived, the daughter of the. It says the daughter of Babylon, right? Okay, the daughter of Babylon. See? All right. It says military prowess, right? And adaptability. It says the Roman military was a high disciplined and effective fighting force that consistently evolved in tactics and organization in response to new threats. And see, as you can see what's going on down in Venezuela, right? Okay, now as you know, they had changed their defense, their military, I think it's a defense of war. Now it's called, right? Because see, all the enemies or their adversaries, what of Esau, right? Esau is making nothing but enemies around the four corners of the earth, right? This is all prophecy, you see. But the main one who's going to come and be the protector of a lot of those other nations is going to be the Russians, right? You see, there's a lot of wars and rumors of wars. There's wars going on. There's rumors of wars, major rumors of wars, World War III. There's things brewing, man. All right? In the midst of that, Jacob's trouble, martial law, famines, pestilences, right? The hour of temptation. Ultimately, those ICBM missiles is going to be let off and shot off here on Babylon the Great. Right? And they're going to shoot off their missiles. There's going to be a whole nuclear war. Right? Radiation. You see? Henceforth with what? Those direct energy weapons. That's nothing but what? Radiation. Right? Gamma rays under these towers and many different other things, right? This place is going to be an explosive place, right? This is going to be nothing but a fire. Water contaminated, everything, man. This place is going to be a desert, America. Babylon the Great. The daughter of Babylon. All right? You see? It says the army became a professional standing force, and its soldiers not just fighters but also skilled engineers who built forfeited camps, roads, bridges during campaigns, which aided rapid movement and communication across the empire. It says cultural assimilation. It says rather than merely ruling by force, the Romans successfully integrated conquered populations into their society. It says they extended to varying degrees of censorship, rights to subdue peoples, right? It says and allowed local customs to pursue. It says and encouraged the adoption of Roman names, behaviors, and Latin as a common language. The Romanization helped prevent widespread uprisings and fostered a degree of loyalty and shared identity. And that's what's going on here right now. Babylon the Great, right? The daughter of Babylon, the ancient pagan Roman Empire, which is revitalized here today as America. All right, so to tell you. Okay? All right, it's back here again today. Right? These are the same things going on. It says law and effective administration. It says Rome established a system and law that was considered preeminent, right? It says throughout the empire, it says bringing stability and order in conquered areas and effective bankruptcy, right? Verity, right? You see, in taxation system, it's it says along with strong central governance, it says providing stability and manage the vast resources of the empire. It says engineering and infrastructure. It says the Romans were great innovators in engineering and building extensive networks of roads, aqueducts, and ports. It says the infrastructure, you can see America has ports all around. All right? They got ports all around, right? Roads, aqueducts, roads and things of that nature, and plenty of different other things, right? It says the infrastructure was critical for the efficient logistics, trade, communication, and rapid deployment of troops. It says there you have it. Okay, you see their military tanks and all their weapons and how the paralysis of the military might, the U.S. Army and the Marines and so on and so forth, right? It says which helped bend the spiraling empire together economically and physically, right? Now, let's go here real quick. Let's go here real quick. All right? Okay? It says a missiles arm race is a competitive buildup where nations develop a stockpile increasingly advanced ballistic missiles like ICBMs, hypersonic, etc. to achieve military superiority. It says most famously seen during the Cold War between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, driven by mutual distrust and fear of attack leading to escalating tensions and costly defense spending. It says spending. It says the race isn't just about quantity, but also the quality, speed, and stealth of delivery systems, making them harder to intercept. It says fueling a cycle of development and heightened global insecurity. Right? Key characteristics. Competition. It says nations constantly try to outdo each other in missile technology. Let me get this here. Psalms 2 and 1, it says, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? the kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, the Lord shall have them in derision. That's right. And Yahweh Shem Yahushai is going to have them in derision, because the army that Yahweh Shem Yahushai is coming with is going to be a very powerful army, which is the angels, the innumerable number of angels. And then you got the missiles, which they don't understand, right? Which is Isaiah, the 54th chapter, and the 16th verse. Let's go there. Isaiah, the 54th chapter, right? In the 16th verse, it says, behold, I have created a smith that blow up the coals in the fire. A smith is a weapons maker, a man of metals, right? Elements and things of that nature, right? So the Temans, the Germans, right? They're people of weapons makers and smiths and things of that nature as well, right? The German scientists and so on and so forth. It says, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth coals in the fire, right? So sulfur and many different other things and elements and things that have to do with the element tables and charts, right, was created into these missiles, because the Most High put it into these devils' minds to create these things. It says, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. The instrument is the ICBM, right? Hypersonic missiles, many weapons of war, right? It created for him to destroy himself, to take himself out. They're going to battle. There's going to be a World War III. There's going to be a up battle, and they're going to turn around and battle the Lord, and the Lord is going to destroy them all. And ultimately, missiles are going to be shot off here by his constituents, right over here on Babylon. You're going to, this place is through. There's nothing left here, man. It's over. This place is done. So this man thinks he's gonna get his technocratical world up and running. Chip everybody. He's gonna chip everybody on the planet, because this thing is a global thing, right? Because he wants to chip everybody on the planet. You see, under one technocratical world, under one world government, right? Totalitarian, authoritarian. You see, right? But it says, and I have created the waster to destroy. So the Lord created the waster to destroy. He just wait. The day is coming. The day is at hand. When the Lord says he's going to burn this place is going to be like an oven. But all the prophecies have to be fulfilled, right? Jacob's trouble has to come, right? And you see the reason why I brought this up. Let's go back in here real quick, because I got a few videos I want to bring out, and then we're going to close. Let's go here into the book of Daniel, right? Daniel, the 2nd chapter, and let's go to the 40th verse, right? So, like I brought up the old Roman Empire, right? It says, and this is the fourth kingdom, right? Which is the Roman Empire. It says, Daniel 2 and 40, it says, and the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. It says, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things. And that's what they do by their military might, right? And I read to you about the ancient grave, and that's how America comes, right? As you can see, that whole secret operation strike takedown, right, of what Venezuela, okay, right? It says, in pieces and subdue all things, and the iron that breaketh all things. So this is when they want to put their legislation. This is when they put this thing to pass. Because see, Job 9 and 24 said, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, wherein who is he? Right? So let me get Micah real quick, and let me go back to that Daniel 2. Let me get Micah 2. Right? Micah 2 and 1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, is because it is in the power of their hands. It has a lot to do with the tiny tops. It has a lot to do with their constituents, right? Going in, rob, rape, stealing, raping, taking resources, right? Taking resources and many different other things, setting up puppet things and setting up puppets, right, to push off their agenda and so on and so forth, right? Draining, how can you say drain the whole society of their resources, right? And then bring the people and then bring the people unto him. You see? All right? But he said he's going to set up here, but nah, he want to set up a place to catch hell, to drain the resources out of the place, right? You see? That's how these things go, right? You bring in your takedown forces, all right, to get what you want, right? When negotiation doesn't get you what you want to bring in your tactical forces to bring down those who oppose your will. So it says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, is because the power is in their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, and even a man in his heritage. There you go. All right? So let's go back. Let's go back to that. Daniel. Daniel, the 2nd chapter, and the 40th verse. Right? Where we at down here? Alright, so down it says a lot of verses. It says, and subdueth all things, and the iron that breaketh these shall it break in pieces and bruise. It says, and whereas thy sawest and the foot and the toes and part of potter's clay and part iron, and the kingdom shall be divided. Right? There you go. NATO and the EU. You see, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, right? And when you go into the 10 horns, you know, Jeremiah Major, Jeremiah Minor, what is it? The Scottish, the British, the French. Hold on. I think I'm missing one. Slovakia. Did a little bit since I went through it. I'm trying to think off the top of the head. Let's see. Oh yeah, the Romans. So you got the Spanish, the British, the French, the Greeks, the Romans, Jeremiah Major, Jeremiah Minor. Right? Well, those are the 7 horns. Those are the 7 horns, right? And you got the 10, which is the Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, right? And you get so on and so forth. You got the United Kingdom, and obviously who comes out of the United Kingdom, which is Britain, America, right? Babylon the Great, aka, right? The daughter of Babylon. All right. It says, and whereas thy sawest the feet and the toes, and it says, in part of potter's clay and part iron, and the king part iron, meaning the military. It says, and the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. It says, for as much thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. It says, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay. It says, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. It says, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, it says, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. It says, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Right? Alright, so let me get my next you know what, let's do this here. Let's go and play this here. Let's go and matter of fact, because I had a video that I wanted to bring out. Oh, I know where it is. It's in here. Alright. Let me see where it is. Right here.
Nuclear weapons are back in the headlines, but not just for who has them. It's about who wants them next. From Tehran to Tokyo, from Riyadh to Seoul, new threats are reigniting old ambitions. So who's likely to seek nukes next, and why? Let's break down the top contenders. Let's start from the frontrunner Iran. As of 2025, it holds over 250 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60%, dangerously close to weapons grade. Experts say that if pushed, Iran could build bombs within weeks or months. and recent Israeli and US attacks on its nuclear sites might only speed up that decision. Even Ayatollah Khamenei's long-standing fatwa against nukes is now being questioned in Tehran. Saudi Arabia is watching closely. Crown Prince MBS has said it clearly. If Iran gets the bomb, so will we. Some reports suggest Saudi has a secret nuclear partnership with Pakistan, potentially fast-tracking a weapons program. Then there's Turkey. Officially, it denies nuclear ambitions. But under Erdogan's nationalist leadership and surrounded by instability from Syria to the Caucasus, defense analysts aren't so sure. Now to East Asia. South Korea has everything it needs: advanced reactors, missile tech, and public support for nuclear weapons. Even former President Yoon openly said the country may have to consider nukes if North Korea keeps escalating. And what about Japan? Technically, it's a nuclear ready state. It has the plutonium, fuel, and industry to build bombs quickly. While the constitution opposes nukes, Japan has explored NATO style nuclear sharing. Taiwan once had a secret nuclear program in the 70s. It was shut under US pressure. But as Beijing flexes military muscle, that debate is returning. A nuclear option could give Taipei new deterrence, but also bring huge risks. In Europe, Russia's war has changed everything. Poland is now openly asking for nuclear protection, possibly under France's arsenal. Other countries like Germany or the Baltics still oppose nukes, but they are watching closely. So what's driving this nuclear rethink worldwide? Rising threats, waning faith in alliances, and readily available technology. Put together, it's a recipe for a global shift. And here's the domino effect experts fear. Iran goes nuclear, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt may follow.
Let me get Revelation. Revelation 13. 13, and we'll start at verse number 11. And it says, see, it says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And as you know, there you go, you have Babylon the Great. See, you got their political party and everything of that nature, the left wing, right wing, right? You see? Okay, which is all of the same bird, right? See, draconian laws, right? Legislation, things of that nature that they push off, right? And that's what's going to ramp up, because this man is a dragon. See? It's a serpent. It says, okay, it says, and the exercise of all, both power of the first beast before him, right? Which was the ancient pagan Roman Empire, right? It says, because we living in a revitalized we living in a revitalized Roman Empire. All right, it says, and calls it the earth, which is all brought back through many different forms, which is being the daughter of Babylon, aka Nineveh, aka Assyria, aka Bosria, aka Mount Seir. All right, Sodom in Egypt. Okay, you see, it says, and he calls it all. It says Salakia, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which that dwell therein to worship the first beast, right? Whose daily womb was healed. Okay, there you go. Reincarnation, they came back again, right? Through what? The Renaissance, rebirth, right? It says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had a wound by a sword and did live. All right, you see, which had a wound by the sword and did live. Okay, and that's that first pagan Roman Empire who was revitalized today back as what you call Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, aka America. All right. Okay, let's go back into there.
Follow. South Korea and Japan reconsider. Taiwan debates again. even Australia might rethink its security posture. Bottom line, countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and Poland are
So these are definitely the nuclear arms races between all of these nations, right? Because these instruments are made for Yahweh Bashim Yahshai's work, because these things are going to be shot off. All right, they're going to be shot off. You see, World War III is going to insinuate. Okay, all right.
either openly debating or quietly preparing for a nuclear future.
And it will happen.
And the global norm against proliferation is starting to crack. But remember, having nuclear weapons is only half the story. In our next episode, we will explain why delivery systems matter even more and how they define real nuclear power. Like what you watched? Drop
All right. Let me see what we got. Anything else? Let's see what else we got. No, let's get this here. Let me get Revelation 6. Revelation 6, the scripture has been coming out a lot, right? Revelation 6 and 4, it says, Spirit has been bringing this scripture out a lot. It says, Revelation 6 and 4, it says, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him to set thereon to take peace from the earth. And it says, in that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword, right? And that great sword is ultimately the ICBM missile. As you can see, he's going around the earth pillaging, robbing, raping, stealing resources from all these other nations, right? He's a vagabond and a fugitive of the earth. A vagabond and a fugitive of the earth. All right, let's go down to here. It says in verse 8, it says, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death. Right, let's go into that. Death. All right. The body of death, right? That separation, whether natural or violent, of the soul of the body, by which the life on earth is ended. It says with implied idea of future misery in hell. It says the power of death. It says since they're neither world or the abode of death, right? Let's go down here. There we go. It says the miserable state of the wicked dead in hell. It says in the widest sense, death comprising all the misery arising from sin, as well as physical death, as a loss of life consecrated to Yahweh, right, and blessed in him on earth, to be followed by righteousness in hell. Righteousness in hell, or wretchedness, right? Death, right? So this guy is the man of death, man. Okay. It says, in hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, right? And kill with the sword. Okay. He was given the power to kill with the sword. Okay, let's go to the word kill. Kill, to take away anyone, to destroy, to allow to perish, to extinguish, to abolish, to inflict mortal death, to deprive of spiritual life, and to procure eternal misery in hell. Right? It says to destroy outright, figuratively to destroy or put to death, kill, slay. There you go, kill, slay. And that's what this man is all about. Right? With the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. See? And with the beast of the earth. Alright? So let me get this here. Let me get Job 14 and 5. Job 14 and 5. It says, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee, thou was appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. Right? So let me get Revelation 12 and 12. Revelation 12 and 12. And it says this. It says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth he have but a short time. Right? Okay? So now, right, let's see what we got. Let's go back in here. Right? So let's do this here. Let's get this article. Right? Military Watch magazine. Right? It says North Korea demonstrates modern hypersonic strike capability and show and force after U.S. attack on Venezuela. Right? It says North Korea has launched a nuclear capable ballistic missile with a hypersonic glide vehicle from it says Pyongyang's, right? It says the Rayafako district. It says which traveled 1,000 kilometers. It says before hitting a target in the Sea of Japan. It says state media noted that the test represented an operational evolution of the country's strategic weapons. It says which was framed as a show of force hours after the United States launched an attack on Venezuela and abducted its president Nicolas Maduro. It says overseeing the launch, it says chairman of the ruling Korean Workers, it says party Kim Jong-un, in reference to the exercise as a very important strategic task to maintain and expand a powerful and reliable nuclear deterrent. All right. It says the missile in question appears to be the new Hwasong 11 Ma. It says shot to medium range distant, design intended to engage tactical target in South Korea and Japan, which is developed as a successor to the KN-23B that lacked similar penetrative capabilities. It says reports on the launch was closely jet posted with a harsh denouncement of the U.S. assault on Venezuela, which is a Democratic People's Republic of Korea foreign ministry slammed as the most serious form of encroachment on sovereignty. It says in proof of Washington's rogue and brutal nature, the ministry warned that the attack set a high concerning precedent in intentional international relations and cause a catastrophic consequence to ensure the idea of regional and international relations structure. It says North Korea and the United States remain in a state of war, with Washington refusing to recognize Pyongyang's existence despite its status as UN member state. It says in having repeatedly come close to launching large-scale attacks on the country from the 1950s to 2017. All right. It says July 4th, 2017, launched as Hwasong 14 ICBM, North Korea's first demonstration of a strike capability against the U.S. mainland. It says commenting on the missile launch. It says Chairman Kim, observed our activity is clearly aimed and gradually putting the nuclear war deterrent on high development basis. It says why it is necessary to be amplified by the recent geopolitical crisis and complex international events. He praised the launch for playing the prelude of the first combat drill in the new year. It says he extended the New Year greetings to the country's missile forces, calling them calling them a reliable shield for defending sovereignty and security. It says North Korea is thought to have first began fielding nuclear weapons in the early 1990s. It says although its aerial, right, its arsenal, Slovakia, was only sufficiently capable to largely take U.S. military options of the table in 2017 when it began to field international range nuclear capability missiles. It says the country has since progressed to field increasingly capable missiles types, including several with hypersonic glide vehicles, and in December unveiled its first nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine, which is intended to revolutionize the second stage deterrent. Right? Okay. It says right here, it says the Korean People's Army in October 2022 tested a new type of tactical ballistic missile that uses a terminal stage with a hypersonic glide vehicle after the missile was unveiled in the first week of October. It says the country's peacetime industry for production short-range ballistic missiles is among the very largest in the world. It says potentially being revealed only by that of China, which allows new designs to be brought into service very rapidly after completing testing. It says designated the Hwasong 11 Ma. It says the new system's use of the hypersonic glide vehicle is expected to pose significant further challenges, making it nearly impossible to intercept. It says it appears to use the same transporter ejector launcher as the KN-23 in the same lower section. It says while the upper section integrates a glide vehicle, it says the system's development follows the first launch as a hypersonic glide vehicle on a medium-range ballistic missile in September 2021 and the first testing as such of a vehicle on the intermediate-range ballistic missile, the Hwasong 16B, on March 2024. Right? So let me get my last two scriptures. So, in a sense, Esau, right? Esau think his house is going to continue forever. All right? Psalms 49 and 11. So this man thinks that, right, going in, taking down these other places and going in and setting up these different things, he thinks his kingdom is going to stand forever, that his house is never going to end. Right? So this is Psalms 49:11 says their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations, and they call their lands after their own names, and that's what they do, right? So as you can see, the arms race between China and all these different countries, between missiles and ICBMs and hypersonic missiles and so on and so forth, right? Just gearing up towards what? World War III. You see, but ultimately we know we got to go through Jacob's trouble, right? That hour of temptation, which is that mark of the beast, martial law. You got uproars of the people, class wars, civil wars, and so on and so forth, right? Many of these different things will occur, right? You got rumors of wars, and you got wars going on. Okay, the USSR is going to come back together. They're going to come back together, right? And they are coming back together. They're going to come back together. And you're going to see how things fold in these days to come and in these times to come, right? So let me get my last scripture. Psalm, right, 52 and verse number 7. Right? It says, lo, matter of fact, I got another scripture before after this. It says, lo, this is the man that made, well, you know what? Let me get this here before I read that. Let me get Psalm the 73rd chapter. It says Psalm 73rd chapter. It says Psalm the 73rd chapter in the 4th verse. It says, for there is no bands in their death, but their strength is firm, and they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. It says, therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment. All right, it says, and their eyes stand out with fatness, It says, and they have more than their heart can wish. They are corrupt and speaking wickedly concerning oppression. They speak lawfully. Right? So let me see. I think I got something else. I had another video that I had pulled up. Right? I had another video. Let's see, I know I had another video somewhere. Alright, let me see. Let me see if it's in here. No. Alright, maybe I didn't save it. Yeah, I don't think I saved it, brothers. Yeah, I don't think I saved it, but hey, let's get my last scripture. Let's get up out of here, Where we at? Yep, let me get the last scripture, Psalms 52. Right, Psalm 52 and 7. It says, lo, this is the man that made not Yahweh his strength, but trusted in the abundance of his riches, and strengthened himself in his wickedness. So with that, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Marakah Kodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone of well, peace and blessings and citation to the hopeful elect, the Bayah, Dawadah, the house of David. Shalom.